Perfect.
This is Karen with Coaches Corner Chats, and joining me on this chat is Matt Rotunda. Matt, where are you at, and what are you up to?
Well, currently I'm sitting in the office at Penn State York, where I've been coaching for the last 12 years, and we actually have practice after our chat here tonight. So I'm here in our office on campus, and I'll be in the gym, as soon as you're done with me.
12 years. That's quite a long time. What's it been like to kind of be there for not just 3 or 4 years? What's it been like to see the program grow? Let's start with, what was the program like when you took it over?
Well, it's interesting. I played here, so I graduated in 2011, and we were a playoff team. We had a nice group of guys that, good guys, weren't quite, a championship caliber roster, but it was a good group of guys. I had bonded with our head coach over, many long trips. And, once I finished school, 3 days later, I knew that, there was a pressing need for, an assistant coach who could, do a lot of day-to-day things. So I asked him if that was something he wanted, and he said, "Oh, absolutely." So I stuck around for a while, and kind of as a volunteer early on, and then became an assistant. I was his assistant for 8 years, and then I took the program over in 2019. So to answer your question, we were in a very old, 1970s like gym. Now everything is very new and renovated throughout the entire campus, not just our athletic facilities. So everything's nice and brand new. From a brand new weight room to the lighting in the gym to everything. Everything is nice and brand new. Quality of player has certainly skyrocketed. We've gotten to be really good over the last decade or so. We've been in 7 conference championship games, winning 5 of them in the last 9 years. So we've had a good run of success.
What has been some of the things that you look at and go, those are the 2 or 3 things that have helped go from at that point when you were playing, saying we have some space to get better, to now being consistently successful?
Well, certainly the new facilities gave us a shot in the arm for sure. And then I always, just pushing the strength of the degree. The Penn State degree is something you just don't find you can find at a smaller school, through the Commonwealth campuses. So, you graduate with a business degree from Penn State, but you can play Division III basketball. So that's, certainly been something that we've been done a good job to sell and push, I think, harder and harder now, now that, we've seen that we can certainly draw talented guys that might be just below an athletic scholarship, or, transfer from a scholarship school because maybe they're just not, they're not getting the minutes or whatever the case may be. We've been able to capitalize on the strength of the degree versus some of the other local Division III schools.
You talked about playing at the college level. When did the game of basketball kind of get introduced to you? When did you pick up the basketball?
Wow. Well, probably, as far back as I can remember, but it was never really a full passion until I was like maybe going into middle school, like 6th, 7th grade. There's a park 5 blocks down from where I grew up in Toms River, New Jersey, where, it had 4 full courts with the painted lines, and it was like the greatest education for a basketball player to go there, and when you're 13, 14, and 15 years old, to play against, guys in their, late 20s and 30s and 40s who just, live to play pickup basketball. You know what I mean? And I can remember being like, in high school, like 15 years old, 16 years old, and there were guys that were, 35 and 40 that would be knocking on my door before I got home from school. Somebody would answer the door, like, my mom or my dad might answer the door, and they'd say, is Matt home? Can he round up 2 guys? We need, we got 7, we need 3, to go up to play full, because, most of the other guys might not get there till 5:30, So I just remember that being a huge, a big education, a big experience for me to, go there and run up and down, play full court, understand the nuances of the game, through just gaining the education of playing every day. And then, so that was really where it kind of picked up to where it's like, it became an everyday thing. It's like I accumulated my 10,000 hours way before most of the guys did in my grade, or somebody who was also in high school.
So you do all that experience and then you get to high school. What's the high school experience for you as a player?
So, believe it or not, I was actually cut from my freshman team, which is not actually super hard to believe when you're, a 5'7.5", maybe marginally athletic, player who was more cerebral and kind of understood how to play, but didn't play my best basketball until maybe I was 18 or 19 years old. So I actually transitioned from, instead of playing my freshman year, playing in the CYO, where we were very, very, for a CYO basketball team, we were very good. And that kind of, that sort of, transitioned into more AAU travel basketball, and then back into the high school ranks. And then, played 2 years of junior college at Ocean County College, where we were, in the region final my freshman year, went 25-6. So my 2 years in junior college, played for 2 different head coaches who have had very good, long, successful coaching careers. And then beyond that, just the every week of working camps and the grind of, the summer camp scene, travel basketball, summer camps, and then eventually get to a 4-year school. So my journey is unique for sure. But it has led itself to exposing myself as a player and as a coach to being coached by different people, being playing at all different levels, and that has certainly benefited me for sure.
It sounds like you were never hesitant to, like, you're talking about playing with guys that are super experienced, 20, 30 years older than you. You get cut from freshman and then you go and play anyway. Have you always been kind of that resilient, like, I'm knocked down, but I'm going to step up and I'm going to, like, I have a passion, I want to go for it type of mindset?
I would say that that's accurate. Yes. I've always felt that, I've always felt that, if you love something, you can become, immersed into that, and I would say that while basketball has been my one true passion, to where I continue, since the time I've been, whatever age it was, 14 or 15, basketball has played a part of my life for over 20 years, every single day. And again, as I mentioned before, I've accumulated the hours to where, I understand it, I see it, I live and breathe and love it, every single day. So it's just different than maybe a player who might have experienced some success when we were maybe 16 years old, and he never played in college, and but now he might play once every 2 months, and it's just different. It's almost similar to the players that I have to, that we recruit to play at our level now, at the Division III level or at the USCAA level. It's, you have to love it. You have to love it to be able to live and exist in it every single day. And so, when if not, eventually what happens is just the game kind of goes away at some point. But yes, I would say that the resilience was certainly kind of within me to be able to move forward and continue to you know, go from one path to the next and expose myself to different, different levels and different styles of play and all that kind of stuff for sure.
You talked about the success at the junior college level as a player and those two coaches. What are some of the things that when you think about those two that you take away now and go, I really love this was a strength of this coach and the other one? What are some of the things that stood out for you?
So my first year, Coach Ryan O'Rourke was my head coach, and he was we had never I had never at any level ran a flex offense of any sort. We ran a flex offense. We were not terribly, we were very disciplined, and we had some really good players, but we were not overly big. We were not, we were not the the longest or the strongest, but we were very solid and just understood how to complement each other as players. We were very together. There was very little selfishness. And I think that his philosophy offensively made itself, as we experienced success, we were able to, we saw more buy-in from each player, and to learn every day in practice how to kind of, set a back screen and then shape up to the basketball, or, set a down screen for somebody and slip to the basket to draw defenders. And now somebody, because of that maneuver, you allowed somebody else to get open. Understanding those nuances and those things made for it, kind of helped me to build a foundation of, okay, I understand why this is working, with this kind of personnel. So it sort of gave me a baseline. And then my second year, we weren't quite as successful as a team, but Rory Caswell he was a totally defensive minded, toughness. We're going to play harder than you. We're going to work harder than you kind of a coach. And so while we didn't have quite as much talent, we were still in virtually every game against powerhouse opponents, because we knew the value of having to play hard, having to compete every play. And so he and his assistant, Tori Fisher, who played college basketball together, were extremely tough minded, and kind of made us tougher, and understand the value of having to compete all the time, every play, every rep is important. While we weren't perfect as basketball players, or even sometimes in our execution of certain things, we played so hard that we competed, night in and night out. And that made a huge impact on me, as I move forward in my career, because now as I see, when you have to deal, even in today's, I have a very good roster right now. We're not under talented, but I do recognize and can point out when another team for a stretch of time is playing harder than us. And so that brings me back to having to, push buttons and pull the strings necessary to get us to kind of step it up.
You mentioned earlier too about people knocking on your door and your parents letting you go off. How important have they, or what kind of impact have they made on your coaching journey, even the playing days to where you are now?
Talking about my parents?
Yes.
Oh, my hometown is 3 hours from where I coach, and they make no less than 10 to 12 games every single year. They still to this day at 35, and it was like that when I was the 13th guy on the team, and it was like that when I was the 7th guy on the team, and when I was a starter, and all those things. So, they just are, they're super excited for me to chase after my passion, but they're also just unconditionally supportive. I could not convey that enough. They're just the best. And I recognize that growing up, within in my family certainly has impacted, you know, my ability to be able to not just chase my dreams, but to be able to stick with it, to be able to, see how certain things aren't going my way, but the ability to just stay the path. I certainly take that from the what has been ingrained in me from the beginning.
You talked about that players are a little bit different now. How are they different from like 12 or even when you played? What do you see as some of the differences in today's player?
Well, what I meant specifically was that our team now, our roster now, is just they're just better, more versatile, quicker, just more advanced basketball players and guys that are able to be coached toward becoming, more advanced quicker, so that their ceilings are a little bit higher. When I played here, my head coach, who I coached under, and I still communicate daily with to this day, Parrish Petrie, he was just taking over kind of a fledgling program, a program that was just kind of, would just die to, make a playoff appearance. He was just taking that over. So he had to get his players in, he had to kind of step the recruiting efforts up and get the players in that could help the team to become successful. And so it took about 3 years for us to become a winning program. And then once we kind of knocked on the door, I think we had a year that we went like 17-7 or 17-8, and we had an upset loss in the first round of the conference tournament. And I can remember the conversation with him on the way home from that game, which was my first year helping him coach. He would say, we're just knocking on the door, scratching the surface. If we can land one or two guys, return some key guys, we're gonna get over the hump in the next 2 years. And lo and behold, the next 3 years in a row, we won conference championships for the first time in school history. So he was certainly the biggest reason for the jump from a decade ago or more to now. But now it's, we used to be we were going into conference tournament time as a favorite, winning the conference sometimes or losing in the conference title game, going to the national tournament, and it was like that was icing on the cake. Was we get to go to the national tournament and to kind of take a stab at making a run. Now the players that we have, the size, the depth, the students that they are, I think in the last 3 years, the players that I've had have a total of like 2 technical fouls. So you're talking just an advanced level of maturity and understanding of team goals above the selfishness. And so the players that we have now, not just the caliber of person and player, but the combination of the two. Now it's like we start out every year in August in the preseason, and our thought is we want to win a national championship. And that's the realistic thought because of the players that we've had year in, year out for the last 4 or 5 years.
When you finally did take over as head coach, what were some of the first things that you wanted to kind of build as your foundation to not only keep the level, but now like you're gone beyond conference championships, like we're talking winning it all, the national title. What were some of the first things that you said, all right, I got to take care of these things to kind of get this ball rolling in the right direction?
Well, we had a player who at the time had a couple of semesters where he had some grade issues, and he had his first 2 years that he played for us were only in the spring semester because he had grade issues. And so I saw what his impact was and our teams and how much better we were with him on the court. And so when I took the program over in like late July, and we knew that he was eligible for the first time ever in the fall, coming in as the junior, I kind of explained to him how his ability to be, with his size and his ability to play both ends of the court as a two-way player was going to be a determining factor for the success of the team, how consistent he could do it for the full season for the first time ever. And so I tried to create a close connection with him early. And then, tried to focus most of my energy on the younger guys to get them to buy into the, a little bit of increased accountability, understanding the importance of putting the deposits in each day, to better the team, better themselves. Certainly the academic piece to the puzzle. And then, I knew that I had to start making contacts with some possible transfer targets, early on in that recruiting season from my first to second season. I knew that in order to sustain the success, we needed guys that were 20, 21, 22 years old, juniors and seniors. Certainly it's great to have young players to develop, and we still have a great group of freshmen that come in every year, but you win with older, more experienced guys. You just do. And so the bodies are different. The understanding of the competitive level is different. And so, I knew that we would have to, establish ourselves as players in the recruiting space for transfers. And I knew that we had to get freshmen who we could rely on to stay not just academically eligible, but to stay the course through having to play against older guys every single day, not knowing what their place in the rotation would be.
Was coaching something that you thought, even like maybe when you were in middle school, or you talk about being cerebral and kind of seeing, maybe not athletically blessed with the skills to do some of the things, but you understood exactly where to be, how to move and all those things off the ball, etc. At what point did the idea of coaching come in? Was it while you were playing at at Penn State York, or was it maybe kind of, have you always been, I guess, maybe a leader in a way?
I would say in a way, yes, in a way. I would say that most of those who kind of grew up with me, or who have played with me at some point, would say that I tried to do the right things to help the team whatever way possible, whenever, no matter what my spot in the rotation would be. And there were times I was counted on, in big spots, or in a as a one of the first guys in off the bench, or a starter, for a spot start, or whatever the case may be, because coaches kind of trusted me to help the team stay in the rhythm of offense, or trusted me to kind of understand and anticipate certain things. But yeah, I would say that my thought was always to try to coach in some way during the time that I was playing, at the college level. I knew that I wanted to get into the college game to where I would always have a chance to pick my own guys, or if I was working for another head coach, I would always influence the program by being able to spot and try to recruit and draw players that I knew could help us because of just their understanding of what it took to win, or their, or whatever ingredient the team desperately needed in that specific recruiting season. Because I'm passionate about it, because I do love it, I know I've always been, I've always kind of known that does come across. So yeah, I when I try to sell the idea of coming to play at Penn State York, players and parents, they kind of, I can see that they get a little bit wide-eyed by my, with my, recruiting pitch, or how I'm passionate about continuing the success of the program, wanting their son to be, to be part of that, to set him up for success with a Penn State degree and things of that nature. And I think that yes, it's genuine for sure, but I think that when you're passionate about something, I think that you can instill confidence and trust in others when you are able to communicate that effectively.
As you look forward, and in terms of your coaching, is there a part of you that one day would like to take this to a higher level, Division II, Division I type
Yeah,
of opportunity?
yeah, definitely. And I'm 35. I don't have kids, so I'm not in a rush per se to just take the next jump that's available. But um, over the course of my career, I've made good connections at every level. And I know that it will happen eventually, or I at least trust that it will happen eventually. But I'm enjoying being at Penn State York, influencing the success of the program, battling every day to try to give us just a 0.0001% chance, better chance to win a national championship for the first time in program history. I'm truly enjoying that, and it's allowing me to um, at the level that we're at, it's allowing me to kind of sink my teeth into all of the different facets of how to help a team from a coaching standpoint. Even as a head coach, delegating different assignments or duties to assistants, picking guys that you can trust that'll be around you every single day. Knowing that having the good feeling that they have the best interest of every player, at the forefront of their minds at all times. Just things like that, and spearheading the recruiting efforts. Certainly those here at Penn State York know, staff members, athletic staff, other coaches, professors, everybody. They have a great deal of respect for the effort that I put in. They convey that, on a regular basis, and it's certainly rewarding to know that you're appreciated in that way. But I think that just as I tell my players every day, you're putting deposits in. You're putting your daily $1.25 in that piggy bank every single day. You're knowing that it will pay off, trusting that it will pay off. You're going to improve. You're going to gain more experience, gain more trust, gain more reliability. All of those things. I feel the same about myself, within my own coaching career. Every day that I'm at this, I'm putting deposits in, every conversation with a recruit, every conversation like I'm having right now with you, every single bit of information that I can absorb from somebody else's conversation. It's all going towards, an accumulation, and eventually, I'm confident that we'll make a jump here at some point.
Clearly, you're super passionate about coaching, super passionate about your program. What do you do to kind of unwind? Is there a time where Coach Matt says, I need to get away, I need a break? Like, what's something you do to kind of maybe give a little bit of balance?
Well, my where I'm from is like a mile from the beach, on the Jersey Shore. So my girlfriend and I, my girlfriend of 10 years, and I have been together and live a mile and a few tenths from the beach in Point Pleasant, New Jersey, which is in the same county as Tom's River, where I grew up, and my family all still lives. So when it's interesting. It's almost like I go through I don't want to say a personality change, but it's almost like I go through I almost morph into a more relaxed version of myself when I'm home in the warmer months at some, for long weekends or things like that. Just like any other guy, I love watching a sporting event, NFL game. Huge fight fan, which a lot of people don't know about me. So big boxing and MMA fan. So I enjoy a good Saturday night of watching a good boxing match and scoring it on a piece of paper, and seeing what happens, and just the spectacle of it, and certainly have a theory which is interesting about how the sport, the combat sports and basketball, even though it's one-on-one versus a team sport, have a lot of parallels to it, where defense is always about angles and avoiding, kind of the knockout punch. And, on the basketball side, it's trying not to let the other team go on a run, or whatever the case may be, being responsible defensively, not just trying to land punches, not just trying to score, understanding you have to set it up, so there's some parallels there that I've always felt are true. And what's interesting about that, to be honest with you, and I'll this is going a little bit long here on this one, but Coach Bob Hurley Sr., who is a great friend of mine and mentor of mine, I've worked with him for every year for like 18 years in a row. So he's a great booster of mine, a guy that helps me, has me come down to all his camps to speak and all those things. Just a fantastic mentor, who's in the Basketball Hall of Fame. He's the winningest high school coach of all time, 28 state championships, all this stuff. Coach Hurley is a huge fight fan. He reads every book about every fighter. He watches big fights. He talks about times that he had gone to watch fights live. Most of my conversations with him are about, some kind of a fight that's upcoming or that just happened. And then we'll touch on, so Matt, how's your team doing? Well, we're struggling a little bit in this area, but you gotta make sure that you stay on track in practice and things like that. 30 seconds on basketball, 4.5 minutes on how this guy got the decision over this guy. It's really cool. So, but I've always felt that way. I'm a big fight fan. I live near the beach. I love the ocean. I love bike rides. And so, fairly active in my time, very active, I guess you should say, in my time away from campus and away from the grind of being with the guys every single day.
A 10-year relationship with your girlfriend. What has she been in this equation of when Matt's coaching, he's going hardcore, he's building a successful program. How does she fit within this puzzle of coaching?
She's a huge part of it. Lindsay is a just a massive, the perfect partner to go about this journey. We live separately when I'm in season, and so it is a sacrifice both of us make. But we trust that it will pay off in the long run. And she's been, more importantly than being in a relationship, she's been my best friend for all these years. And I bounce certain things off of her. She keeps me grounded into understanding the importance of my relationships with each player. She is just, supportive is not the right word. It goes beyond that. She's a rock for me. She's trustworthy. I can always depend on her. And she understands, it's like some days we get 30 seconds to talk on the phone, and, she understands. She doesn't, it doesn't make her the happiest person in the world. Of course not, but she gets it. And, she's fiercely independent and has a full-time job where she works from home. And she also has like her own small business where she's, and so she's very busy herself. And, we've built a really cool life together that physically we have to spend some time apart, but it's a really, really neat, certainly it's, the biggest thing is, in my life is being able to have the best of both worlds. And, her unselfishness allows for that to be a reality for sure.
You talked about earlier having a staff that buys into what you're doing and you can trust and what have you. What does a basketball coach's year look like? Like, what's your 365 days look like? Like right now we're in season, but once the season's over, like what does all of that look like? When's the recruiting going on? What's all the travel, all those types of things? What are the guys doing in the off season? What's kind of a typical kind of template for the year for you guys?
So we try to stay away from our guys in the 6 weeks that are left in the school year after our season ends. Typically we do play into March. So, in the national tournament. So once that dissipates, and we will have some exit meetings, and we'll try to stay away from them and try to just give them some times where they can check in and do a study hall, or jump on a Zoom, or maybe meet for an open gym, but not really, not we try to not smother them too much, because we know what we just went through for all those months of being with them every day. So, um, you know, assistant coaches all get, you know, we take a look at all the local, showcases, AAU tournaments, high school games, everything that we can, now so much stuff is live stream that makes things a lot easier. And so we just every week we divvy up, you got to see this guy, you got to see this guy, and it just goes, it flows week to week. Before you know it, the school year's over. You got a handful of guys that have already got all their stuff in and been accepted. Then you got guys that are in the beginning stages of the application process, and it's just staying in touch, staying in contact. You know, maybe a couple times a month through the summer, we'll meet back at school and go out for a night, talk, and meet up, have an open gym with the guys, that kind of thing. But really, we try to stay on task with my right hand man, James Stockton, who's been a head college coach in another, at the junior college level, was a teammate of mine, high school, college. I got him. He came out here at the beginning of last year. He heads up our strength and conditioning, and he is just an A+ in that department. So he keeps the guys on a program where he keeps, he communicates with them, like every 5 days, where he's sending them a new batch of workouts, uh, you know, throwing in some different basketball stuff to go along with their weight room, routine and whatnot. And then I have two kind of grizzled vets that help me. Jim Collins, who's been with me since I took over in 2019, is in his 50s, and he's a longtime high school coach here in York County, grounded in this area year round. So I always have the ability to kind of bounce things off of him. He's kind of more of like it's almost like a counselor on staff in some ways, where he just, to him, it's above the winning and the losing. You know what I mean? He's more just, he enjoys the daily push to try to have the players get better and keep them bought in and all of those things. And then I have Rich Mills, who's an assistant of mine, for the second year this year. He's been all over. He's been at St. Bonaventure, Bloomsburg, Fairleigh Dickinson. He's coached at the Division I level and the Division II level, and now later on in his career in those stages, he's in the York area helping me as an assistant, and has just been fantastic by helping to break down film and things of that nature. And then we have Brody Crowder, who's a well-connected assistant of mine from the Baltimore area, that helps us by keeping contact and keeping tabs on certain high school players, breaking down film and highlight tapes of recruits. Brandon Hill, who helps our forwards, a big guy coach, just started this year as a volunteer, works with them on post play and different things, and is himself just learning, coming into his own as a young coach. And then we have Josh Zersky, who was a teammate of mine here, who is also a head high school coach down in the Baltimore area, a winning coach himself, championship level coach that was a teammate of mine, like as I said, and another helper in terms of on the recruiting aspect. So we have a lot of guys on staff. Each one has duties. Each one is bought into what it takes to help us, but it's more so that they're all supportive of my vision and philosophy of not just being successful, but having I don't want to say a template, but having a system in place that allows us to sustain it. And that's really what it's about. It's not just like I watched the Bill Belichick and Nick Saban relationship coaching special on HBO just a couple weeks ago. It's like Nick Saban says, at some point, after you climb the mountain, now you become the mountain. And so now it's like that says everything about Penn State York. We have been in all these championship games. We've been in all these national tournaments. We've won all these titles, the winning percentage, all this stuff. At some point, it's like at this level, we've kind of almost become the mountain. And so to sustain that and try to stay on top when you're getting everybody's best shot, when everybody's going after, high level recruits to try to come in and beat you, when all that is taking place, it's just, having the guys that surround you to be supportive of what you're setting out to do day in, day out, year in, year out is just so important.
You've talked about the support of the coaches on your staff. You mentioned 18 years with Coach Hurley Sr. How important has been like the coaching community when it comes to learning and growing and getting connections? Like, it just sounds like for someone like that to allow you to come for 18 years is amazing, and to pour his amount of experience and knowledge into you. I mean, that's just like, people would pay lots of money for that experience, and you're getting to go down there and rock and roll with it. But now you've got people on your staff who have as much experience as he does, and the success and all that type of stuff. How big is, connecting with coaches and having them be part of your mix?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because when I first took over the program, I was all about only worrying about, I have my one assistant, I had maybe another volunteer guy that would come help every once in a while. And I was all about just keeping everything under wraps. Don't talk about this on social media. Don't do this. Don't do that. And I was so defensive about connecting with other. I don't want to talk to those guys. I don't want to talk to, and now I've opened up to where, I know you're familiar with certain coaches that you've made, like Coach Penn and others who are all over the social media and all over Twitter, and so active in the coaching community in being able to get coaches connected with one another from all different levels, all different parts of the country. And what an education that has been for me to sit in on a Twitter space event and listen to others talk about their grind and their, the daily battles that they fight every day, or just the experiences of certain people that grew up in different areas that maybe there weren't many Division III schools, and either you got a scholarship or you had to go junior college. And now, just those different experiences from others, connecting with them has certainly benefited me here in the last 12 to 18 months, post COVID, where I really tried to kind of get out there a little bit more and make myself, expose myself to hearing different things, to having more conversations, to, exchanging phone numbers and texting with coaches about, an out of bounds play or anything. I really was always sort of, to myself, and in a lot of ways, that my head coach, Coach Petrie, where this was his last stop, he was a little more hardened and approach things that way. Where, and that's kind of where I think I learned it, where I almost didn't want to expose how I was doing what I was doing, to anyone else, and always being defensive and worried that when so-and-so is talking to somebody, they're fishing for information or whatever the case may be. Now I'm aware that there's always going to be some level of that, or some degree of that, where people are always going to try to get some info from you or from your assistant or from a player. And I get that. Now it's more that I kind of trust myself and my coaches that it doesn't really matter as long as we keep the focus on us and on our guys. It really works to our benefit that we make Penn State York men's basketball even just a little bit more of a household name by promoting it a little bit more, by talking to other coaches, by being out there and at different tournaments that maybe we would avoid because we wouldn't want others to know we were recruiting certain players or whatever the case may be. So to answer your question, the value of the connection, not just to my coaches and to Coach Hurley, but to others that the world of social media and other things has allowed has been really rewarding. It has really helped helped me land my starting center who's a grad transfer helping us, who's helping us this year, has started almost every game in a 14-2 start. So I would say that the connection is the connection aspect of things. We've been able to not just use to our advantage, but it has also been able to open my eyes in some respects, and realize that there's more than one way to go about every little detail and nuance about things.
So 14-2, off to a really solid start. If I come to a game, what am I going to see? What's the style of play for a Matt Rotunda style team? Are we pressing? Are we getting after? We play quickly? What's the style that we like to rock and roll with?
Well, most of what I do is centered on man-to-man defense and putting the onus on the player to stop their guy. Have an understanding of what he wants to do and try not to let him do it. We keep things fairly simple in that regard. Be responsible, be accountable. On the offensive end, there's a lot of flow to how we play, where the ball moves rather quickly. Guys know how to get to a spot without the basketball, know how to draw attention of the defense with just a simple movement, moving in a way that isn't dragging from one spot to the next, but has some explosiveness to it. Certainly transition for anybody is hugely important. So we're going to try to run first for uncontested plays, and rhythm plays, but creating good shots from rhythm, ball movement, people movement, unselfishness. You would see a lot of unselfishness. I truly believe that players that have come here as great individual players have become even better because of their ability to buy in and understand the value of making everyone of the 5 players on offense a threat to score because we're able to move the defense or influence how the defense reacts to certain things and then counter it. Spend a great deal of time reading the defense, trying to take advantage of certain things, and then the fact of the matter is, you're going to see, if you would be at a game, you're going to see some good players. We got some really good players here, guys all different sizes, guys that can play fast, guys that can play above the rim, guys that can knock down a lot of open shots. We've got a lot of good players here that are skilled, that play really hard. So I play together. So I think you'd certainly enjoy it. The review from most of those who come to the game is that, man, those guys really play hard. They're committed to winning. They're all bought in. So that's always nice to hear those things, and I think you would see that and appreciate it for sure.
That is a perfect way to shut down this chat. This has been awesome. A little glimpse into college basketball with Coach Matt Rotunda of Penn State York. And I'm out. Peace.